Hey, everyone. Welcome to a live episode of A Few Short Minutes, the pod. You guys, today I've got the beautiful Aeoliana. I'll get it straight. I'll get it right at one point in
You're
time.
good. We can do
But
aioli if that's easier.
aioli. Well,
Yep.
I do
Shorten
love
it.
aioli, so that's
I
even
know.
better.
That's easier to remember. We can do
Exactly.
that. We can do that.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me tell you about Aeoli. I screwed that one up too. Who cares? All right. She's a podcast strategist, which is exciting to have her on my podcast today. I also have a lot of friends that have podcasts or want to start them. So perfection. Love it. Lucky wife. I love that. Lucky girl syndrome. Hockey mom, former paralegal, and spiritual journey enthusiast. Oh, yeah. We're going to have some fun today. She helps new female podcasters go from having no idea what strategies to use to grow their podcast to having a far reaching podcast where they can share their heart and their unique message. And I love all of it. So, introduce yourself, please.
Okay. So thank you for having me, Stacy. First of all, this is really exciting. Like you said, I am a wife. My husband Danny and I live in Florida, and we've been married for it'll be 19 years in May. We actually met in middle school, so that's a whole other story.
Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah. And we have an 11-year-old son, plays hockey locally here in the area. And I was a paralegal for 20 plus years. Ended up in 2019 getting a double kidney infection. I was hospitalized, and the law firm I worked for fired me while I was in the hospital.
Oh, come on.
So quickly had to regroup and started working for a construction company, which is where I still am now. In the midst of all that transition, I've been listening to podcasts, true crime podcasts, since about 2015.
Same.
Love me some true crime. Love me some true crime. And but in 2019, I realized the learning potential that podcasts had. So I started diving into some VA work, listening to podcasts for VA, did that for a little bit, then jumped into podcast management, listened to more podcasts about that, learned how to do that, and then just transitioned more into helping women put their strategies together, set their goals, because I was noticing that a lot of podcasters start out having no idea what they're doing with their podcast. And then when it doesn't gain traction, they're comparing their podcast to those of people who have been around for a long time or who have the bankroll to be able to hire a team. And a lot of us don't have that option. A lot of us are doing everything solo. So, with that, I use a lot of mindset, a lot of, self-love, give yourself some grace, balance, because a lot of us aren't only doing podcasting, we're also partners, we are mothers, we are entrepreneurs, we work full time, we do all the things. And so sometimes our podcasts get on the back burner, even though, you have that burning in your heart that you have something to say. And I've always believed that if you have that in your heart, it's because someone needs to hear it. And so just finding that balance where you can do all of the things, but still get that podcast out and get that message out for that one person who's waiting to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. You said a lot of gold in there that I want to kind of highlight for a minute.
Let's break it apart. I'm here for it.
So, I love when people, women, whatever, start things just for the hell of it, right? Just for the hell of it, which is kind of what I did with this. I was like, you know what? I love podcasts. I love podcasts on YouTube in particular. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to do anything, that's where I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to do it. And I just kind of want to show people how their lives can change in a few short minutes. And I want to highlight people out there that help other people, change their life, whether it is an accountability coach or spiritual coach
Yep.
or, a podcast strategist. We don't know that we don't exactly know what kind of help is out there because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So I love that people just jump into it and they go, I'll figure it out along the way, because
Absolutely.
that's the best way to take forever,
Yeah.
and ever, instead of like, okay, let me map it out and have these expectations, because you're going to be sorely disappointed. Uh,
Hmm.
so I love that. And I love that you said, when people don't have those expectations met for whatever reason, they then start comparing themselves to other people that are in their 20th chapter. And I
Right.
see that all the time with coaches that are new. I have a lot of clients that are like, well, this one coach that I'm friends with, she has 100,000 followers. Great. She probably started 10 years ago.
Right.
I
Yep.
mean, and you started this year. So
Yep.
please, like, you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yep.
You need to find other apples to see what they're doing. And
Yep.
I love that your strategies include self-love, because what I know to be true is, when those expectations aren't met, we turn it inward and say, I'm a failure. I didn't do things right. This not my is not the path for me now. This is what this shows me, and I'm just going to bounce.
Yeah.
And you are robbing the world of your voice at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because so many of us, like, I mean, women in general, but I'm sure men deal with this too. So many of us internalize that failure, like you said. And it could be that, maybe you weren't talking to the right people, or maybe your topic just needs a little bit of tweaking, and it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the people you're trying to talk to. Like I said, maybe you're not talking to the right people, maybe you need to change your format or whatever. Has nothing to do with you, but we internalize it and we tell ourselves all the time, like my favorite, my troll thought flavor of my life is that I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
sure.
it's a constant thing in my mind where it doesn't matter how much experience I have, how much I've helped people, even as a wife and a mother. I'm constantly like, I'm going to screw my kid up. Like, yeah, I've been married for almost 20 years and I'm still like, I'm not a good wife sometimes. So it keeps creeping in. And I try to tell my clients, because I'm going through it too, but I try to tell my clients, you have to give yourself that grace. You would never talk the way we talk to ourselves is not the way we would want anyone to talk to our children or to a friend or to a spouse or to a partner. Like, we would
Yeah.
never talk to them that way.
You would
And
never
it
say these things to people you love. Absolutely
no,
not.
absolutely not. But yet we are the harshest critics to our own selves. Like, we are the mean girls to ourselves. We don't need mean
Oh,
girls. We
totally.
are the mean girls.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had that conversation with my therapist. I said, no, I don't need any help. I can do bad all by myself. And she
Right.
was like, yeah, I know you can. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So just giving ourselves that little grace, that little bit of, so what if you don't get everything you set out to do done? Did you at least do one thing that you set out to do? Great. Celebrate that. Take it step by step. It's not going to be like a ball rolling down a hill. It's not going to get traction that quickly. It takes time. But once, but giving up and stopping, you're just robbing people of what they need to hear from you, of, your special magic that they need to hear. I mean, you could, and this is going a little far, but like, you don't know if the message you're trying to relay could save someone's life, could save someone's marriage, could save someone's future, could save, like, could make someone get out of a toxic relationship. You know, our stories matter, and being able to be visible and share those stories with people, even though you're scared, even though you're afraid, even though you're like, crap, like, are people really going to listen to me? Should I really be the one talking? Yeah, go talk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that you're coaching alongside. That's exactly what you're doing. I don't know if you realized that, but you're coaching, in being a podcast strategist, and that is phenomenal. So podcast strategist slash life coach, totally is kind of the niche that you're in. I remember when I started my YouTube and I got my first subscriber, I was like, oh my gosh, oh yay. And one of my shorts hit 1,000, views. I was like, holy crap, like so excited. And now so that started mid-February, or no, excuse me, mid-September. And now we're 1st of February. And like my follower count's creeping up so slowly. It's so slow.
But it's creeping up.
But it's creeping up. Exactly. And yeah, my shorts are doing okay. I'm definitely getting more views on that than I do any other platform, which is wild because it's my newest platform. I mean, I've been on Facebook since 2007, and I don't get the number, even close to the number of views that I do on YouTube or on Shorts. So that's kind of wild to think about. My newest platform is still my strongest in visibility.
That's awesome.
Yeah, super exciting. Super exciting. Plus I can take this and repurpose it and throw that on all my other social media channels. So I'm not like recreating content all the time, which is exhausting.
That is the magic of podcasts. I tell that to people all the time.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I could download just the recording on this and throw it on podcasting platforms, or I can break this up into social media clips. Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you don't have your podcast in video form, you're missing half of what you could be doing with it. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, no, especially now since there used to be Google Podcasts, and as of I believe April, they're getting rid of Google Podcasts and everything's turning to YouTube podcasts. So you can do both video and just the audio if you want to, if you were still on the Google Podcast. So yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of people who are still hesitant to do the video because they're like, well, I got into podcasts and not a YouTube channel because I didn't want people to see my face, which is fine. That's fine. But you could totally take your audio from your podcast and put it on YouTube with a still shot, picture and the audio in the background. And hey, guess what? You're on YouTube and your face isn't anywhere near YouTube.
I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Or they'll record it on Streamyard and it'll look like this. Hold on. How can I do this? It'll look like this.
Yep.
And that's their whole usually have a picture there, but like that's it. That's what's there. And it's just them talking. So you absolutely could do it that way. I see them all the time on YouTube. I see it all the time on YouTube.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that now, like podcasts and YouTube and all that, they're all searchable now. So when you go on Google and you search for things, YouTube videos are popping up in the results. Podcasts are popping up in the results. So that's another thing I try to talk to my clients about is that SEO is like where before when you were doing a podcast, you were like, oh, I really don't need to worry about it because, it doesn't matter. But it does matter because if you want people to find you, you need to be able to give them a way to find you. So yeah, it's a great video's a great way. And it also builds that know, like, and trust factor. So the more people hear your voice and see your face, the more they can relate because they can see like, if you're a coach, I'm a strategist, you're a coach. If people want to see how it would be to work with us, and they don't get that from us typing on a keyboard. It doesn't resonate the same way. So
No,
when they hear you talk and when they see you talk, they're like, hey, that's somebody I could work with. That's somebody that I like the way she talks or the way she carries herself. That would be somebody who I'd want to coach me.
Yeah, people all the time are watching your body language all the time, whether they are doing it intentionally or not. I do it during sessions. I incorporate body language into my how I coach and see what people are not saying or if they're like buying what they're saying. And so, but intuitively we do that anyway, just instinctually.
Yeah.
So even if somebody isn't watching for that in particular, they still notice how you carry yourself, how you relate to the other person. If your face is judging them, or
Yep.
you're making some silly face. So yeah, video. I mean, Gary Vee says all the time, video is king.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. There's a
Yeah.
reason for that.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not showing up on video. I get it. I understand. But also get over yourself.
Yeah.
And I
My
say that
coach
with
does
love.
that all the time. Like, she tells us all the time. She's like, if you're scared of doing something, you need to do it more. If you're scared to be on video, you need to be on video more. If you're scared to talk to people about this or about that, you need to talk about it more. Because it's only in the
1000%.
doing. Yeah, it's only when you do. Like, thinking about it doesn't get you anywhere. You
No, it
have to
makes it work.
do it. Absolutely. We get stuck in our head. We're like, oh my gosh, what if they say this? What if they think this? Like like it freaks you out. It freaks you out. And you're like, no, I have to do it. I'm just gonna throw myself, go in the deep end, and hopefully I can swim.
Yeah. Oh, and if you don't, you learn. Even if you don't swim,
Right.
you learn.
Right.
You
One of
learn.
the things my coach Faith has taught us is, she says, you either get the outcome that you wanted, or you learn the lesson that you were supposed to learn.
Yeah.
And it was
1000%.
crazy because we tell our son that all the time. And it wasn't until I heard her say it that it kind of like, I'm like, oh crap, I tell him this all the time and I'm not listening to myself. I'm not listening to myself. And
No.
like, because we don't, like, we're very good about helping other people, but when it comes to doing it ourselves, it doesn't, I don't know. I think if I found out why that is, I'd be rich.
It's the inner critic.
Exactly.
It's the inner critic. That's why the inner critic's my specialty, because I used to be the absolute worst to myself. I still am the worst to myself, but it's not constantly or consistently like it was. I've been able to reduce that inner critic by about 75-80%.
That's
And
great.
so now it is great. It is great because I'm able to do things like this and just
Mhm.
be like, you know what? It's not going to be pretty first, and I'm going to figure it out.
Mhm.
And it doesn't, it just doesn't matter. I'm
Mhm.
not even going to. What am I trying to say? I'm not even going to gauge myself as a loss or win
Mhm.
until a year in, and then I'll kind of look back and reflect and see. But what is it? It's 4.5, 5 months now. That's nothing. That's
Yeah,
nothing in the
yeah.
long term. I mean, you were talking about listening to podcasts since 2015. Yeah. Criminal and um um what's the one with Georgia and Karen? Georgia and Karen. What is it? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna remember in a second. Oh, My Favorite Murder. That's what it is.
Ah, okay.
Or and That's Why We Drink, and all. They've been doing this for a million. Ashley
Right.
Flowers, a million years
Mhm.
now, comparatively. And so I would be doing myself a disservice and allowing that inner critic to run rampant if I'm gonna gauge myself against them and I'm 5 months in.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not fair, but we do it all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We do it all the
Absolutely.
time. Yeah.
I want to go back to the SEO real fast because I
Yeah.
don't think people understand the benefit of the SEO. Not every social media platform is SEO friendly,
Mhm.
but TikTok and YouTube definitely are.
Mhm. Yep.
Definitely are. And that's why if you Googled, how to do laundry, guess what's popping up? A YouTube video or
Yep.
three.
Yep.
They're right up
Absolutely.
there with the blogs. They're right up there with websites. The
Mhm.
YouTube videos are recommended just as much. And there are reasons for that. So, would you talk about that, please?
So I'm not in any way, shape, or form an SEO expert, but I will give you my insight as I know it. So
Beautiful.
I know the reason SEO is so important is because of those keywords. So anytime we search for anything, we're not just randomly searching. Like, we don't just go on Google and, randomly type stuff. We're specifically looking for something. And so those keywords, when you add them to your podcast title or your description or even your show notes, just adding those keywords in there that people are looking for is going to bump up the search results for you a little bit higher than if you were just to have a random thing and somebody happened on your podcast or your blog or whatever. Now, certainly, just like everything else, you don't want to drown your descriptions and your title with nothing but keywords, because a lot of the search engines look for that because they consider that, bot writing, like the chat GPTs and stuff like that are writing it.
Sure.
It's not, conversation. Like, you wouldn't, let's say you were looking for a podcast for how to write SEO, like how to do SEO descriptions. You wouldn't write, how do I write SEO descriptions using, whatever. You would just write SEO descriptions, or just SEO, or descriptions, or SEO podcasts. You use simple terms like that. You wouldn't use um a big long term, the way if you were to put it into chat GPT, that would give you a really long description. So you just have to be careful when you're putting in those keywords, spread them out in there. And then the best way to get those keywords is to just poll your audience. Ask people, what are they struggling with? What are some of the things that if they were looking for something and they needed help with something, what would they be searching? What would they be looking for? And then infuse those, whether it's in your title, whether it's in your description, whether it's in your show notes, put them in there somewhere so that, it's not going to come up right away when somebody searches. Like, if you put in your keywords and you post your YouTube video and then you go on Google and you search, your stuff may not come up right away, but it'll be in there. And, eventually people will find it. And the more you use it, the more the algorithm is going to be like, oh, she's, serious and she's really talking about this stuff. And you're going to be more of an authority in whatever it is that you're talking about, just by using those keywords that people are looking for when they search. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so my understanding is there's short-tailed and long-tailed words. You can also
Mm-hmm.
go to Answer the Public, you guys, and type in what your podcast is about for that episode, and Answer the Public will return it collates search engine usage. And so it'll give you all of the top ranked search engine searches over the last, however long there it is. So you can actually see what people are searching for on that topic, and you can use those. And so also you could plug them into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, create a podcast description about this
Yep.
topic, use these keywords, and see what it spits out. Don't copy paste directly. I say this all the time.
Yeah.
Do not copy paste directly from any kind of LLM. Make it sound like you.
Yep.
So use it as a framework, but
Yep.
then go in and make it sound like you, because right now it sounds like AI, and it needs
Right.
to sound like, Aeolia. It needs to sound like Stacy. It doesn't need
Right.
to sound like AI's version of us, because it's not going to sound like us.
No, and it's never going, I mean, you can train it to sound like you a bit, but you
A bit.
still need to go in and tweak it and make it sound like you. And like you said, it's just a framework. Like, a lot of content creators get hung up on, I have to create the perfect piece or the perfect, whatever. And they're like, I'm sitting here looking at a blank screen. And for me, like, I use ChatGPT for a lot of things,
Oh
but
yeah, me
I
too.
don't use it. Yeah, but it's like, it gets me started. Once I see it, I'm like, oh, I can talk about this, or oh, I can talk about this, or, I just expand on what it's already given me, and I'm not starting from scratch, which is what I love. It's, it's
Yeah.
a great tool to not start from scratch.
Yeah, with those with perfectionistic patterns. It's perfect for not sitting there and staring at a blank screen, at least. Because
Mhm.
if I have something and it's popped out of there, I can edit the hell out of it. Because
Right.
I'll go, oh, that's not right, or that's not how I would say that, or they forgot this part. And so I'll edit the hell out of it. And by the time I'm done, it's mine pretty
Right.
much. There's
Right.
probably maybe 30% AI remaining, but most
Yeah.
of it's mine. But that
Right.
is so much better than me sitting here and going, I don't even know what I want to write about. I don't even know
Yeah.
where to start
Like,
this
you got that
description.
Jeopardy music in your head?
Oh, constantly. Yeah.
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 And really, if you think about it, it's actually all you, because you're the one who gave it the prompt. You're the one who
That's true.
asked it the question. Like, my favorite thing to do is I'll go on Google and I'll ask a question like, what do podcasters, and then let Google finish it. And that gives me an idea of what are people searching. So if you don't
Yeah.
have an audience and you're looking to create content and you don't have anyone to ask, that's a really quick way to go in there and do some Google research that way. And you can also go on ChatGPT and be like, hey, I need to find out what the pain points are for this particular person. Give me some ideas of what these people are struggling with that I can talk about.
Oh, yeah, I never use it. That's brilliant. I didn't even think about that. I do that for coaching programs, but I never thought about doing that for like a podcast episode.
Oh,
That's
I do
smart.
it for podcasts. I do it for workshops. I'm creating a workshop right now on pitching to guests, because that's something that's really come up with a lot of clients that I've talked to, is they're wanting to know how to pitch their podcast or pitch to be a guest on other podcasts. And
Yeah.
so I went in there and I had it give me like outline a whole course. And then I'm just going in section by section and adding my own things to it, but I've already
Mhm.
got the outline and the framework.
So talk about that for a minute because I have
Yeah.
I have a lot of coaches, I coach coaches, and then I also coach women on negative self-talk. So I have
Mhm.
dual purpose here. But for my coaches that I hope you're watching this, because I was super excited to have her on because I thought of you guys. Um, so for my coaches, talk about pitching to be a guest, especially on, a podcast that's like in the top 2%, because a lot of my coaches are new. And
Mhm.
so they don't have a massive following. They've got amazing stuff to say, absolutely, but they just don't have the credibility and the oomph behind it. So how could they approach a podcast to say, I'd be a great guest? What would be a tip for them?
So a tip for them would be, first and foremost, know what you have. So believe in yourself and in what value you would provide for that podcast. And when you're pitching, a lot of us tend to pitch with what we provide versus what their audience needs. So if you make that slight shift into letting them know how the talk you're going to give or what you're going to talk about is going to benefit their audience and benefit the people that are listening, that completely changes, because the majority of pitches people get are standard templated pitches. They don't get changed. They don't. And I mean, I have a template for pitching. Like, I provide that, but I make sure I let people know, make sure that you change this to be specific to whoever you're pitching to, because some people read it, most people don't, but you'll find that 5%, 10% that read it, and those are the podcasts you want to be on, because they take the time to like really look at, what are you saying, like, where are you coming from, how are you benefiting my people. And so that would be my tip, is just, instead of thinking so much more about what you can provide, focus on how you are going to benefit their audience. What is their audience going to take away from the conversation? What kind of transformation can you provide to their audience when you're
And
pitching?
so with that being said, um, they need to listen to at least one episode of the podcast.
Absolutely. Yes.
Correct?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. At least listen, get a feel for the host, get a feel for what they talk about, get a feel, like there's a lot of podcasts where people talk really off the cuff. There's some that are very scripted. There's some where there's cursing. There's some when there's not, like you have to be very conscious of how people are talking in their podcast and what type of audience they're catering to. And then just fit your, excuse me, if it fits, then fit yourself into that mold. And you don't have to change how you speak. You don't have to change what you're talking about. Just be aware of what audience you're going into and how your words and your value are going to resonate with them and what you're going to give them. And then pitch, like the more you pitch, the better. You're not always going to get everything that you pitch to, every podcast that that you want, you're going to guest on. But don't give up. Like you need to, it's a numbers game. You have to, you can't expect to pitch 5 podcasts and get on 5 podcasts. It doesn't work that way. You
Yeah.
pitch to 10, you might get 3. And then start small. Build up to those, 1%, 2% podcasts. But start with smaller ones. So especially if you're just starting out and you're not comfortable in front of the camera and you're not comfortable getting recorded and you don't really know what you're going to say or how you're going to say it.
Yeah.
Practice with smaller podcasts. There's always podcasters out there looking for guests. Practice with those. Record yourself. Practice hearing the sound of your own voice. All of those things help out in gaining your confidence to where you can then go and be like, I'm a rock star, I'm awesome, I'm a badass, I can pitch anyone, be on anywhere and talk about anything. Let's go. Who wants me?
Yeah, I love that. And for again, coaches that are listening, my friends, um, by doing this and showing up on what she's saying, smaller podcasts, it's all practice.
Hmm.
Also, pitching as much as you can. Guess what that readies you for? That readies you for sales or discovery calls of potential clients too,
Yep.
because you've already experienced rejection and overcame it. And so now you just shift that over to your sales pitch, your discovery call, and you're not going to be so worried about, oh, did I say something dumb or, did I make a funny face? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
It really
But
doesn't.
practice
Yeah.
is practice, y'all.
Yeah.
Practice is
Yeah.
practice for sure.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on a one sheet or a media sheet?
So I did those when I was starting out in VA work and podcast management. I probably should go back and redo my one sheet. Um, I think it's fine. I think the problem with the one sheet is unless you update it to be specific to the podcast you're pitching, there may be some things in there that aren't going to resonate with the podcast guests or with the podcast host. So
Okay.
the same way that I say to personalize the the letter that you're sending or the email that you're sending, letter, I'm so dating myself. The email that you're sending, the same way that you're personalizing that, I would say personalize the one sheet, because if you've ever seen one sheets, they're very bland. They're very like, this is me, it's very two-dimensional. So I think when you personalize it, or even if you send a video where you say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and you include the one sheet, that's fine. But at least there's personality behind it.
I love that idea. I never thought about sending a video as a pitch. Yeah, that makes sense though. It
Because they
makes
can hear
sense
your
though.
voice, they can see how and a lot of podcasters, like I've had the experience with a lot of podcasters who will do like a pre-call interview
Yes.
before they do the podcast. And I love those because, and I've talked to a lot of them and asked them why they do it, because some do, some don't. Um,
Hmm.
And they all say the same thing. They had someone on their podcast who ended up being a terrible guest. Like there was a lot of silence. The conversation didn't go well. And so now they like to make sure that they can hold a conversation. And so I totally get that. But if you were to send a video with your pitch, they would be able to say, "Oh, she can hold a conversation," or "She's someone I would like to talk to," or "She's someone I would like to get to know more."
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And yes, excuse me. It's always interesting to me to do those podcast interviews. I don't, because I stalk you before I before I send you my booking link. I stalk you, which doesn't always account for the long pauses or just a more quiet personality. I've had a
Mhm.
couple, and yeah, it was almost like pulling teeth having to carry the conversation when the conversations aren't about me. It's about you and your chance to highlight what kind of help you give people out there. And
Right.
so, yeah, I get that. But so the stalking doesn't always work. But yes, a
Yeah.
video would definitely, or an interview for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, my business partner does one. I don't. But I've been on quite a few interviews I've only gotten turned down once, just once.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also an extrovert, so
Yeah.
I can be really,
I'm an introverted extrovert. It depends on the situation. I can be super, super duper like on point and extroverted. And then I can be really like, yeah, no. Usually when I go on interviews for podcasts, they book. But sometimes on email, if they don't do those interviews, and sometimes like it doesn't translate. So they don't want to book it. And I'm like, that's fine. I wasn't meant to be on your podcast. Totally
no,
cool. Totally cool.
absolutely. Absolutely. What are some other common mistakes that you see women podcasters just starting out? What do you see them making or doing that if they had you, they maybe wouldn't have done?
So we talked about this at the beginning. One of the main things is comparing themselves to people who are farther along. Um, so I have a lot of clients, I've talked to a lot of podcasters where they look at where their starting point is and compare it to someone's middle or already finished line. Or they compare themselves to someone who has a team of 2, 5, 10 people, or someone who has the bankroll to pay for all these extra things that you need. Um, and that comparison will get you stuck. Like it will stop you from progressing and learning what you need to learn to move forward in what you're doing. So, another thing is thinking that they need to be perfect, thinking that their podcast needs to be perfectly recorded, perfectly edited, perfect equipment, perfect topic, perfect everything. None of us are perfect. If COVID taught anyone anything, is that nobody's perfect. And that's the thing now. Like ever since COVID, I think a lot of people are very against the fake, very against the facade that everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Our I'm gonna curse here. Our shitometer is on high alert. As humans, our shitometer is on high alert. We can spot a fake a mile away. And whereas years before, that would have been like, okay, fine, whatever, they're doing well. Now you cannot be fake and expect people to trust you, to listen to you, and to take you seriously. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen anymore. You have to be authentically you. People are looking for people who are making mistakes, people that they can see themselves in, people that reflect who they are. And none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. None of us live in, like fancy, we're not driving fancy cars. A lot of us work, have, crazy schedules, crazy things going on. And that's what people want to see. They don't want to see perfection. Those days are gone. And if you're thinking And I mean, we've been all taught that we have to be perfect, and we always, especially women, we have to be perfect. We always have to, don't speak up, don't be loud, don't speak out of turn, don't be opinionated, don't do this, don't do that. When now it's like, yeah, do it. Be opinionated, share your voice, say what you think, say how you feel, because someone out there is waiting to see if they can say it too.
Yeah, you give people permission to be themselves when you are yourself.
Right. Right. You tell people it's perfectly okay. Like I was reading, somebody posted something. My husband's really into football. And so, we're watching the Super Bowl like everyone else. And this guy wrote this article and I posted it in my Facebook. I have to share it with you so you can look at it. And he basically posted, he's like, I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. I don't care about her. But you have to understand that your children are watching how you are totally vilifying this person just for existing. Like she's just there to cheer on her boyfriend, who she's super proud of. And you're making this out to be so much more than it is. And all she's doing is cheering on her boyfriend. Like that's
Who
all it is at
wouldn't?
the end of the day. I mean, like, that's it. That's all, and it's like
Yeah.
your sons are watching, your daughters are watching, like, and you're reacting to this person just being themselves without knowing who she is just because she's in the public eye. And, if we don't speak up for things like that and we don't say, hey, that's not right. Hey, that's not right. You know, it happens to so many people that they get left in the background and nobody pays attention. And so now, like I was saying, we need to be more authentic. We need to be more real. We need to be more ourselves and be less what other people expect us to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The kicker's wife is there. You know, you know
They're all
that
there.
they're all there. All the family
They're
is
all
there, and
there.
yet she's
Yeah.
the one taking shit.
Yeah.
And then there was some controversial TikTok about this woman criticizing her curly hair because it was just kind of frizzy that day. Well, guess what? She was out in the elements. What the heck, man? Leave the
Guess
girl
what?
alone.
It does it. Curly hair. It gets
That
frizzy. It does
happens.
it. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But I
And
guarantee
they
you when she was younger, she paid for a perm because she wanted curly hair.
Oh, I did. Yeah,
I
yeah.
guarantee you that woman wanted curly
I
hair.
absolutely did. I absolutely paid for a perm. Because I wanted curly hair. And now that I'm older, now it's getting this weird curl to it. It's not like it's a half-ass curl. So yeah. Anyway, it's wild. But like, come on, it's just hair, man.
Yeah.
Like she can't be rock star ready all the time. She's a person. Leave
Right.
her the hell alone. That girl has taken more criticism and more flack from her young age of whatever, which she was 16 when she entered the music scene, 13, something crazy,
She was
crazy
young.
young.
She was young. We
Yeah.
share a birthday, which is awesome.
Oh, look at that. You're a Swiftie twin. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
So I know her human design and all that stuff. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Also, I'm sure there's many parallels then because of that. So that's kind of cool for you, for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, yes. I mean, she's much younger. Much
Y-
younger.
That's okay. We won't say.
But
We
it's
won't
all
tell.
good. I have life experience. I
Exactly.
have life experience.
Exactly. We've got, yeah, tons of wisdom and life
That's right.
experience on that
That's
for
right.
sure.
Yes.
Um, Talk about the different roles that people could hire out to have a team for and what they could expect from those different roles, because I don't think I don't know very much, and therefore I know that other people don't know very much. So
Yeah.
talk about podcast producer, manager, strategist, like
Sure.
what are all those terms?
Sure. So, basically, you can hire out anything and everything except for the actual content creation. You never want to hire out your own brain. So, your ideas, your topics, your interviews, your content, you don't want to hire that out. The first thing most people hire out is editing. Very few people like to edit their podcasts. It's a drudgery.
I
So
just don't do it.
you can hire, you could do that too. But you can hire, a VA to just come in and clean up the podcast if you want to. You can hire for publishing it to different platforms. You can hire, a producer would do all of those things from beginning to end, as well as cut the clips for your audiograms, your videograms, your social media, so that you're able to repurpose it in different places. Um, what I do as a strategist is come in if you haven't launched your podcast, and we talk about what's your purpose, what's your goal, what are you looking to accomplish with the podcast. For me, I do every 3 months. So I like to meet with my clients at the beginning of the quarter and at the end of the quarter. Beginning of the quarter, we do um, strategy calls where we set up the goals for that quarter. And then at the end, we look and see what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to change, what do we need to tweak, what needs to stay the same. A lot of podcast strategists will do audits on podcasts if you've already had your podcast for a while and you're kind of like, it's stale, I don't know what's going on. Um, a podcast strategist can come in and do an audit of your podcast where they listen to a few episodes and tell you, hey, this is what's working. This is what's not. Maybe you should try doing this. Have you tried promoting here? Have you tried doing that? Um, Depending on your bankroll and how much time you have, you can hire a team to do your marketing and your promotions. You can have a VA come in and just be solely responsible for, let's say you have a Facebook group or a website for your podcast, or making sure they're answering all the questions if you have questions that your audience leaves on your podcast, things like that. Um, and then some people want to monetize their podcasts. You can also hire a strategist to help you with that and to help you with the growth of your audience, or you can hire a VA that just specifically looks at what are ways of revenue that we can make for the podcast. And you cater to coaches, and ads in your podcast, like having a podcast is a fantastic way to to promote your own services. So many people think that you have to pay for other people to have their ads on your show. You having courses, services, whatever it is that you do, even if you're not a coach, if you are business to consumer or business to business and you provide some kind of service, you can use that platform as your very own ad space to let people know what you do in addition to the podcast. And that's free. That's your time, and you're promoting your own stuff. So those are all the things you can, and I'm sure there's other ones, like email management, have someone manage your inbox, manage your Facebook group, manage your socials, all of those things you can hire out. And there's plenty of people who do all of those things in one. And then there's people who specialize in only certain aspects of those. It just depends on what you need.
Thank you. That clarifies a lot for me. Um, because I just didn't know. I had an idea, but I didn't know exactly what, if what kind of help I needed. Where would I search? Who would I search for? One more question, because it's
Yeah.
really, again, for our coaches, for my coaches that are watching this, what we encourage them to do is approach the podcast host of saying, hey, when my episode is released, if I provide you with email swipe, would you send it out to your list? And oh, by the way, there's an affiliate link in there for you. So you get, if somebody becomes a client of mine from your email list, I'll send you 30% commission. What is the best way to approach people with that? Because not all podcasts have an email list of their listeners or subscribers like that. They don't market to them. They don't gather that information. But so what could we do there to kind of make those deals?
So affiliate ways are perfect. Like that's a really great way to bring people in. I would suggest that if you're a coach, most coaches have like, some way of getting in touch with them. So some kind of freebie, maybe like depending on what coach you are, a worksheet, or, something that you can provide to people to get them on an email list. Having an email list is great because then with your podcast, you're sending that out to people every week or whenever you publish your podcast, and you're going to get listeners because these people already know you. Like, they already know who you are. And so when I get started with clients, I like to tell them to make a list of what I call their launch squad. And these are people who you know are going to listen, and they're going to be your support when you first start out. And the more they listen, the best promotion is word of mouth. So the more keen you are to let people know that you're out there, that you're available, and what you have, the more people are going to talk about it. So that would be my insight on that, is to, like, give your value for free to your people. Let them let them come. You're never going to give out all of your knowledge. That's impossible, especially if you're learning constantly like we all are. And you're always going to find new ways of seeing things, hearing things, talking about things. So don't be afraid to share your knowledge with people. The more you share, the more you're going to bring people in and want people to keep listening to you, or people are going to want to keep listening to you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm a big believer in, even if I did give all my knowledge away, that people aren't going to follow it just by the default of being stuck
Yeah.
on their own patterns. And
Yeah.
so it really does take working with me to move you through that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a big believer in giving it all away, because in the end, most people aren't going to do it anyway. And if they do, bravo. That's
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah. Awesome.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. How should these coaches approach podcasts that they're guesting on to be able to email that podcast host's list?
So usually podcast hosts will allow you to give your freebie out on their podcast. So a lot of them will ask you, do you have something you can provide to the audience? And then they'll link it in the show notes, and whoever wants can go in there and get that. Like, I have my guide to launch your podcast in 8 weeks. I have, some worksheets. It depends on the podcast, what it is that I give them. I want to
Sure.
make sure that whatever I give them is going to be of value to their, what we talked about, and to their audience. So,
Sure.
and then usually those are linked to my email list. So if they opt in to get that freebie, then they're opting in to my email list. And then I'm able to talk to them, that way. And for me, like, I'm starting my podcast this year, but I have a blog. So for me, my newsletter every Friday, they get my blog on my newsletter, and, they get the link to the blog, and then they can read it and, do whatever they want with it. But that's how, for me, that's how I do it. And that's how I teach my people to do it, is, get them in, give them a freebie, something of value, and then get them on your email list, and then just give them value. The more
Yeah.
value you give them, the better it is.
Nurture them along.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, so many nuggets in this. I can't. I hope you guys watched all the way to the end, because wow. My eyes are opened, and I definitely am going to check into Aeoli's services, because as I've been doing it by myself, and that's fine. It's a learning curve, but I definitely want to get more traction, so I can help more people, whether it's through becoming a client of mine or just watching this. I just want it out there more. So thank you, friend, for coming and doing this live.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm so happy you came live, because a lot of people are like, no. No, I'm like, well, I don't understand, because I'm not editing shit. So
yeah, it's the same. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I know I'm live, but it's the same thing. Like,
it is. I know.
It's literally the same. It's not like somewhere where it's telling me, oh, it's telling me I'm live, but it's the same thing. It's just we're having a conversation, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. people freak out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that inner critic again. It's that inner critic
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell everybody what it's like to work with. What do you offer? Where to find you? All of
Okay.
the things.
Okay. So I don't think I put it in the chat, but it doesn't matter. So my
I'll drop
website, which
it.
is where everything is, it's www.topshelf virtual services. So top TOP shelf SHELF virtual services. And that's where all my socials are. That's where all my services are. I have free resources in there. My blog is linked in there. My opt-in for the launch your podcast in 8 weeks is in there to get into my newsletter. I offer podcast launch strategy services. I offer podcast strategy calls, like we were talking about earlier. I offer podcast audits, and I also have Voxer support. So I have monthly Voxer support where you can walkie-talkie me, have any questions you have, and I will get back to you with an answer. And yeah, those are all of the things. And like I said, there's free resources in there. There's worksheets. There's ways to monetize directly, indirectly, why you need a podcast. All of the things. You'll get to see my husband. You'll get to see my son, hear a little bit about us, about, who we are. And yeah, I all of those things are on there.
Beautiful. It's scrolling across the bottom, y'all. But of course, I'll put it in the description and or the comments depending on where you're watching this. So it'll be there momentarily. Just give me a few to get it across the board. And go check her out. At the very least, go give her a follow or connect with her.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on all the things.
Beautiful.
So yeah,
Beautiful.
just come and find me. Come and find me and tell me you saw me on Stacy's live, and I'll be so excited.
I'll be so excited. So go check her out. If you have a podcast, women, or if you are contemplating one, but you feel a little overwhelmed on how do I do this the right way? If you're not just a person that just jumps in, go get her guidance and her support and her help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been amazing. I appreciate you.
It's been so much fun. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Very much so. You guys, it literally takes just a few short minutes a day to change your life, whether it's in mindset training, negative self-talk training, podcast training, and getting your feet wet. You are just one decision away from blowing your life wide open in a great way, So go connect with people that push you forward, because that's one of the most important things to do if you want a different life. So thank you for joining me. You guys do all the social media things. Y'all already know, like, subscribe, share if you'd like. And if you're not following me already, please do. Thank you again, Aeoli. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for everybody who watched this. I appreciate your time, and we will catch you soon. Bye.